Hello and welcome. I'm Darren. Today we are going to check out FSR4 versus DLSS4 in The Last of Us Part 2. So I am going to state right off the bat, before we get any further, I might have to redo this video. I'm kind of over a couple of hours into it now, and I really didn't want to mess around, redo everything, double check. I did just check back on Terraware's video. So in watching his video, I think this is probably accurate. But when I actually watched it back, I thought to myself, this can't be right. This must be the recording method that I've used or something else, because I was quite surprised. I've been playing this game on both GPUs. I've had a decent experience with both GPUs. And I thought that the game looked great on both GPUs. I'm actually surprised how different it does kind of look, which shocked me, because until you see it side by side, I don't think it's something that you particularly notice. Looking back at Terra's video, I might be right. I might have it wrong. If I have it wrong, I will come back and I will state that I've got it wrong, and I'll make a new video to make sure it's right, because I was playing it with FSR4 and I thought it looked great. So we'll let this run a minute. And I'm not saying that FSR4 doesn't look great. FSR4 in this game, like I said, I've been playing it. I think that obviously the good thing about FSR4 is it's fixed that instability issue. I mean, you can kind of see up here, normally you'd get kind of details like this that would be flickering. Any kind of fine details in the distance would be flickering. The one thing that you do notice is they probably do disappear a bit. So like the power lines kind of break up a bit and kind of disappear in these sections and stuff like that. But as far as it goes, I was very happy playing this game with how FSR4 looked. So, and I'm still happy to play it. Like, don't get me wrong, this isn't this is bad, this is good situation. This is just a breakdown of the two upscalers. I'm happy to play it with either. I actually have quite a bit more performance on the 9070 XT. I'm going to look into that also, because I've just seen the benchmarks on Tech Power Up and it's different to what I'm getting. I am on Intel on the NVIDIA GPU. I'm not sure how much difference that makes. 7800X3D with the 9070 XT, and then I'm on a 13700K. The one thing is, I did actually, as soon as I realized, or I thought to myself, maybe it's because of Intel, I do remember reading comments, people saying you need to disable rebar because rebar's broken on other videos that I've seen. I am running, obviously, resizable bar with the Intel. It might be because of that. I don't know. I don't know. I'll have to find out. But as far as it goes, performance is good on both. It's over 100 FPS on both. Obviously, this is 4K using quality upscale. So 4K using FSR quality and 4K using DLSS quality. I don't know if it was noticeable to you as we just flicked over, but instantly the detail sharpness is a big change. I mean, admittedly, look, it still does. Those power lines still do. I think they look more cleaner and sharper than maybe what it did. Yeah, they look a little bit more kind of fuzzy and blurred on that. But everything looks a bit more fuzzy and blurred, which I was surprised about, because playing it, I didn't feel or notice that, which is kind of why I said that I want to double check that I am getting it right and I'm not making any type of balls up. Looking back at Terra's video, where he just had a quick showing of DLSS4 transformer, it did look like there was a lot more detail in the short kind of part of the face. I think he showed like Jill's face or something like that. I think it was kind of a noticeable more detail, or it was more pronounced detail. So looking at this, I'm thinking, no, maybe this is right. So I just want to get that out of the way. But as far as it goes, it's quite a lot. So we've got a couple of scenes here that we've done. Obviously FSR4 on that side, DLSS on this side. You can see that this is the NVIDIA GPU running. So the noticeable thing that you do find is she does get a little bit of breakup in kind of the fine hair. It happens on both. I can obviously understand that because it's a very fine detail. So that's kind of, I don't think there's a winner or loser there. Probably the one noticeable thing is the detail. So the texture detail in her coat is apparently more detailed in this image, but also obviously in her face, her freckles, so on and so forth, and obviously her hair more detailed, more kind of in here it looks kind of less individual strands, let's say that, or it almost looks like it's got better shadow details than this. It hasn't. Everything is 4K maximum settings, FSR4 quality, DLSS4 quality, so they're both using exactly the same. But yes, that was to me quite noticeable. And as we go through, like I said, I just took a quick look at a couple of different scenes. I'm probably going to do a little bit more as I get further into the game. If I get further into the game, who knows? It's one of those things that I'm not engrossed in the game. It's all right. I can play it, but it's not my type of game. But yes, you can kind of even notice, like out here on the tree, there's a lot more kind of detail in this wood grain. This is kind of just gone a little bit flat. Certainly in kind of this area it's flat, whereas in here you can see a lot more detail. So that's quite surprising. I didn't notice it. Putting them side by side, like when I was playing it on the AMD GPU, obviously I've been setting up a system. You can kind of definitely see out here, like this brickwork looks more pronounced. It kind of does look like it's a little bit of a higher resolution on this. You do have that kind of, this is a higher resolution to this, just like a better, you know what I mean? I'm not saying, oh, this looks like 4K and this looks like 8K or anything as ridiculous as that, but it does have that, just that extra detail. Everything looks a little bit sharper, and all the details, like you can kind of just pick out, that's handy. You can kind of just pick out here, like there's more detail in her. She's got a lot of freckles, right? So you can pick out the more details in her freckles. You can pick out kind of the more details of like the creases in her lips that kind of disappear on there. As we go further forward, you can kind of pick out more detail on like her eyebrows and stuff like that, whereas they just kind of blur in together on that one. So, but definitely the kind of material. So in this, you can pick up like almost like the weave of the cloth. In this, it kind of goes, it almost disappears. It's probably not actually much point me running these as they are. I might as well just go to the side by side. So I've got like basically I just kind of tried to get in the same place and run a 2-minute capture. So you can see this is obviously where I did it with FSR4, and this is where I did it. You can see there's quite a bit of difference. I'm about 8 FPS faster on the 9070 XT. I'll look into it. At the end of the day, I'm not overly bothered about it, but it would be interesting to see because it's not quite the same as some of the benchmarks. The other thing is, which I did think, it might be because I'm running DLSS4 transformer on a 40 series NVIDIA GPU, which will lose some performance versus if it was running on a 50 series GPU. So that might be somewhere where it almost comes into the equation. I'm not sure. Tech Power Up did do kind of a... I haven't looked at the native. So Tech Power Up did a native, and then they've done a with upscalers. And with the upscalers, I don't know what upscalers they're using on which, if that makes sense. They're not actually saying, oh, we are using DLSS4 across all of the NVIDIA GPUs, and we are using FSR. Well, they can't use so yeah, that doesn't make sense, because obviously they can't use FSR4 across all of the AMD GPUs, so I'm not quite sure what they're doing. They might just be using FSR3 and DLSS3. So that might be a difference. That could be another equation. I'll have to check that out. But as far as this goes, I think you can probably see, yeah, so that was kind of instant as I paused it. Like, you can see the detail out here, like where the tree leaves and what, they all kind of blend in a little bit more, not so pronounced. And then when you go to DLSS4, it's kind of, the tree leaves are a little bit more pronounced. All of this brickwork is more pronounced. It definitely goes. And it's weird because I didn't really think FSR4 had gone that soft. Yeah, you can, like, what happens here with her coat is a huge difference, which is interesting. And obviously her hair here, you see her hair here compared to there. I'll just make sure I'm not freezing it on a kind of in-between blurry frame, but no, it's even like you can just, I don't know, coming to YouTube, this isn't going to show up, which is kind of annoying, but you can kind of even see her skin detail here, whereas in FSR4, in FSR4, you're not going to see any of that. It's just, all of that's gone. So we'll run that to the side by side. Again, it's probably quite noticeable. Brickwork, stuff like that, but probably more so, I think the biggest thing that is of notice is the actual character. Definitely a kind of, you can, well, I think it's every detail, but definitely on the character detail, her clothes certainly suffer a lot more. Obviously, hair detail, you can see it's quite a big difference in the hair detail. So that's probably one of the biggest areas. Now, this is running, as far as I haven't touched it, so this is running with the default. There is a sharpness. What difference that will make, I don't know. I believe on both of them. I haven't touched them. I'm pretty sure there's a sharpness slider which goes from 1 to 10. I think it's on 5 at default. So this is on 5 at both, on both systems. I haven't touched it. What difference that will make if you adjust it, I don't know. You might find the DLSS4 image too sharp. I'm sure you can just adjust it down. That's not going to have any impact. Sharpening the like, obviously, it's generally, if you sharpen an image, you might kind of introduce some aliasing. Softening an image is never going to hurt it. You're not going to, if anything, if you have some kind of aliasing, if you soften it, you're going to obviously mask that a little bit. So if you thought the DLSS4 was too sharp, you could definitely soften it. With the FSR4, you could sharpen it. That might introduce kind of a bit of shimmer or something. I don't know. I'm not saying it will do, but it has the potential to do that. But anyway, we'll go to the next image. So I've got one stood here. And like I said, this, when I'm playing it, this looked really good. Oh shit, did I just go right in the moment where we swapped over? Yes, I did. So as I was playing it, I thought this really good. And to be fair, I was sat watching this record and thinking, whatever they've done with the bunny is really good. Like the bunny. Bunny's the best part of this game. Like, it actually, that bunny model was really good. I see lots of bunnies over here, and that really does look and act like a bunny. I mean, I'm impressed with the bunny. Best part of the game, without doubt, the bunny. But yes, the details in this I thought looked great. Crisp, clean, nice, no problem with it. And like I said, I don't have a problem with it. I could play like this. But I was actually quite surprised when I put this video together, because not until it's put together and then I watch it back, I don't see it myself, because you're never going to notice the difference. Well, not particularly. If you're playing one game like one night on one system and then you swap over a day later to the other system, I don't think there's anything that makes you go, oh, hold on, this just stood out crazy to me. When you put them side by side, go away, then you notice these things, if you know what I mean. Unfortunately, she decided to jump in this one. She wanted to be part of it. Obviously felt a little bit left out. Bunny stayed around. Bunny looks great. But again, you can kind of notice just how much cleaner her hair looks. There's a bit of shadow. I don't think that's it. Yeah, there's a bit of some kind of shadow thing going on there. I don't even know if you noticed that on the AMD GPU. Yeah, there is a bit of a shadow thing going on there. So again, we'll go to the side by side. Probably quite obvious. The clothing detail just really does disappear or blur quite badly. That's kind of the main area, and hair. But I find it's more the character that suffers rather than the rest of the scene. The rest of the scene doesn't look. It is a bit noticeably sharper on the NVIDIA GPU, but it's not crazy. I think actually the worst thing, or the most prominent thing, is her hair and her coat that kind of just show up in the scenes more than anything else. But again, I will say this isn't a huge thing. I think they both look good. I'll happily play with either of them. I'd happily play on either system. But obviously I kind of take notice of these technologies and I wanted to make some content, and so this is the content I'm making. It might be interesting for some people, it might not be interesting for other people. Obviously the tribal people will get, they can say whatever they want, it's fine. Because there's nothing wrong with either. So if you say that you prefer FSR4, that's absolutely fine. If you say you prefer DLSS4, that's absolutely fine. I'd play with either of them, but I'm, like I said, I'm putting out what I see. And I was quite surprised when I put them together because there's a bigger difference than what I thought that there would be. That's not, obviously DLSS is... FSR4 is very new, so it does have... It's not like I'm going to kind of defend it. AMD took their time. It's as simple as that. So yes, it is newer, but that's down to AMD. It's not DLSS's fault that AMD is newer, and do you know what I mean? That none of that really matters. But FSR4 is very good. A lot better. Like the shimmering has got... The shimmering is a main thing that really kind of always got to me. I hate seeing lots of kind of shimmering objects all over the screen. I find it very distracting. So FSR4 has fixed so much of that. And that's good enough for me. What FSR3 looks like, I don't know. I might actually have to do one with FSR3 just out of interest, because obviously the other, well, it's pretty much all of the obviously older series GPUs that are still stuck on FSR3, and I don't know what that's like in this game. There's not probably a huge, well, saying that, her hair might really suffer with FSR3 if it's really shimmery, but then Sony games, FSR3 was always their better implementation, so it might be okay in this game. I'll have to have a look. DLSS3 looks horrendous in this game. It's the worst I've ever seen it look. Well, no, it probably is. Yeah, I don't think I've seen DLSS look as bad as what I saw it look. Or DLSS3 then. It looks like DLSS1. And it probably is. Who knows? But yes, so this scene here, you can kind of tell again a lot more kind of character detail. I'd probably say in this image, I'd maybe soften it a bit. It does look very sharp. I don't know if it's just... The other images probably not so much. I did find in this, I was saying that, when you put them side by side, that one looks noticeably... That almost looks too soft. That almost looks too sharp. Somewhere in between would be great. But I think the particle details might be slightly different. They look a little bit more... maybe not. Let's have a look. Let's see what comes on. Nah, there's probably not a huge difference in it. But obviously, as far as her face goes, you can see how much softer it looks. Whatever it... I think FSR4 is obviously definitely struggling with this material. You can kind of see it's a little bit harder to make out like her zip, whereas in this it's kind of a lot more pronounced. Hair, again, obviously. And then face details, like this is a very kind of pronounced kind of cut, or whereas this is just kind of blended in a bit. Freckles, kind of eyebrow details, they're a lot more noticeable as kind of individual, whereas this kind of goes into a bit of, obviously a bit more blurry, and then details in the background, this stuff back here is all just that little bit sharper. These things that are holding up the mittens and stuff like that. So that's probably the story of it. Running around, I haven't really done much in the way of like movement around, but as far as it goes, both of them looked kind of very stable to me. So there's nothing of great kind of worry or difference in that. But yeah, I think as far as it goes here, it just looks slightly higher resolution on the DLSS4 versus the FSR4. But I find it mainly on the character model. Again, the actual kind of world details, I don't mind it so much. On the character model, it's amazing how clean FSR4 looked. And you almost thought they looked really sharp until you saw it next to DLSS4 in this scenario. And then I'm like, oh, maybe it wasn't. But again, I'll state I'm happy playing it on either one of them. Either one of them looks good. I was just wasn't quite what I was expecting. So like I said, I did double check. I did look at Terra's kind of last video on this, where he did kind of put up a quick section of a cutscene with DLSS4, and it did look a lot sharper than what FSR4 did. Or it did look to hold more detail. Probably more so. I think the video that he was showing was a real close-up of a face, where you could obviously see all of like the like skin, and it was noticeably more detail in like the wrinkles and stuff. It was a lot more noticeable in the video that he put up. But yeah, there it is. That's it. I'm going to leave it there. We're nearly 25 minutes in, so I'm not going to drag it out any further, but that's kind of a quick look at DLSS4 versus FSR4. Let me know what you think. I'm happy with either of them. Like I said, FSR4, the biggest thing that to me that needed to change was the aliasing. So I think it looks really good. DLSS4, I think it looks good. I don't know if it's the best I've seen DLSS4. I'm not expecting, like... I was quite surprised. I read a few comments yesterday about people being surprised that DLSS doesn't look great in a Sony game. I don't know why you're saying that, I'm going to be honest, because I think it's pretty obvious why it wouldn't look great in a Sony game. I don't think Sony need to go out of their way to try and prop up the opposing brand. Now, I'm not saying that they're purposely do. I guess I kind of am insinuating that they're well, okay, it's not that they're purposely making it look bad. It might just be that they're purposely not that bothered. Let's put it that. Let's go that far. Obviously, Sony are tied in with AMD clearly, and Sony are tied in with AMD's FSR4 and making FSR4 look good. So I never, and I never will going forward, expect any Sony port to have the best implementation. And I don't think it's a big deal. It's just one of those things. Like AMD users are not surprised when a NVIDIA sponsored game has better implementations. I'm not surprised when a Sony game has better implementations. That is probably just the way it's going to be. You've got two companies that are, they're going against each other, and they're not always going to act like adults. So I'm not surprised, but I think either of these look good. You play it with either of these, and that's a big thing because, like I said, you've kind of got rid of, definitely with FSR4, you've got rid of the shimmer, and when FSR3 did look good in some Sony games, a lot of the time you had some quite bad ghosting or something like that. I've not seen any of that in this. I did notice in a few scenarios where Terra was talking about with the transformer model, where you get that kind of grid pattern that just flashes up every now and then. It kind of blends in and then blends out. I did notice that in the dark with the torch. It's not. I'm not going to say it's great, but I'm going to say it's not something that particularly bothers me, because shimmering bothers me, and I'm just going to stand by that. Shimmering has always been something that has annoyed me, and obviously DLSS4 in this shimmers quite badly. I'm not surprised. I don't think it's not something that, obviously, DLSS3 and FSR3 is what we've been used to for the last couple of years, and DLSS3 is not something that I've ever stated it looks to have bad shimmering until this game, and I'm like, what the hell? It looks like FSR. I've not seen DLSS that bad before, but there we go. It is what it is. So I'm gonna end it there. If you liked, awesome, swing me a like. If you didn't like, I'm sorry. I'm not stating particularly anything. I'm just showing you what I've seen. Like I said, if I am wrong, I don't think I am. I try to match up my recording methods. I'm going to go back and double check that I've not done something stupid. I'm using the 4080 system at this moment in time to make this video. So obviously it means turning it off, disconnecting everything and swapping the systems over. I'm waiting for some parts to actually come for the other system, which is why I wanted to get this video done. I'm going to double check. If it's wrong, I'll just remove it, because I'm not going to leave a video up that's misinforming anyone. I don't care how many people have seen it. It doesn't matter. I'm not really bothered about clicks or view. Do you know what I mean? If it's wrong and it's misinformative, then I'll just remove it. So if that is the case, then I will. If it's not the case, then it will stay in, because it's not a big deal. So I'm going to leave it there, and I'll catch you in the next one.